Central Avenue is one of those streets, right? Like, you could take Central Avenue all the way downtown, and it'll take you all the way south to the Bay, to San Pedro, right? Carson and all that. And you know, you go through every community through there, right? And so it's one of those streets. Because of that, I think it's important. Central Avenue is part of the conversation when it comes to environmental justice in this community, right? So the way the city was organized, I mean, the ports are a major part of the economy for the city of Los Angeles, right? Over there in San Pedro and Long Beach. All that merchandise needs to be brought in to the rail yards, which are found out here in like Commerce and you know, near the downtown area, right? The corridor designated for that has been Alameda. That's why Alameda has that major train tracks that they finally built underground. Back in the day, those used to be above ground. So you can get stuck on Alameda for a cool minute, right? Because it's those long trains coming from the ports. But Alameda is also it was organized so it could handle the traffic of the trailers, right? Now, the amount of traffic has led trailers to seek other routes to go north-south. And one of them being here, Central Avenue, right? It's part of the reason why Central Avenue's streets are so beat up looking, right? Like so many potholes and stuff like that, right? It's the weight of the big trucks that have really like impacted the conditions of these roads, right? And you know, we're over here sharing these roads with these big trucks, right? Like, you know, it's part of what makes it the most dangerous. Central Avenue is one of the high injury network corridors, which means has the highest numbers of traffic collisions and fatalities, right? With pedestrians, transit riders, and cyclists, right? A lot of it has to do with how the street is organized, right? Now, I want folks to remember how the streets look like when we were around USC, right? When we was driving on Figueroa, did those streets feel like they were unsafe for pedestrians and transit riders? Now look at this street, right? Folks are literally sitting on the sidewalk waiting on the damn bus, right? Like, there's no shade, right? You know what I mean? Like there's even a lack of maintenance. There's weeds and stuff growing off of the sidewalks, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it gives a different feel, right? In terms of prioritization, valuing, right? And that's the part where I think the accountability is an important piece of this conversation, right? Y'all role as RAC members sitting on steering committees, you have an opportunity to talk to these agencies and hold them accountable to what their job is supposed to be, right? And that's this, because I guarantee you, those agencies, the people doing these projects, they never come out here to take a look at our streets and how they are like this. They should get out of the damn office, go check out where you're supposed to be planning some project, right? So you have a feel of what's really the situation, and not base your decisions on like Google Maps or data charts or whatever it is they use to inform their decisions, right? It has to be a mix of both, right? You know, and if they're not gonna do that, then y'all role is so important, because you are the expertise of these streets, not them. They might know their little language about planning and engineering, and that's cool, right? But they don't know this community. The experts of this community are you, right? Because you live here, you breathe here, walk here, drive here, you do everything here, right? And so your perspective is important, y'all. Over here to your right, y'all, damn, I almost forgot this piece. So a key moment for South Central occurred in 1979. This site right here was now the post office, been the post office for a long time. Used to be the site of a Goodyear tire plant, all right? That provided thousands of jobs in South Central, union paying jobs, right? People were able to buy homes, send their kids to college, all that stuff, working in this factory. It occurred, I'm sorry? The your Goodyear blimp will be housed here too, right? That factory closed in 1979 when Goodyear decided to move their operations elsewhere, right? So what did that create? This sudden hole of employment for a lot of middle class jobs, all of a sudden, right? Right around that time was when crack was introduced into our community, right? So it was this crazy explosion in terms, right? Mental health crisis, right? Because you can imagine folks who had been used to providing for their families being unemployed, unable to find new work because there was no other jobs, right? And then you know, you out here in your mind with that stuff, right? It made no wonder why crack blew up in the neighborhood, right? That wasn't a coincidence, y'all. It's important that we know these stories, right? Because the cycle of poverty has not always existed, right? South Central was a suburb, right? Originally was a suburb to the city of Los Angeles, right? It was a decision to disinvest that's created the reality that we live in now, right? At the same time, I think it's important to note that's also kind of when the tension in between black and brown communities started occurring as well, because it was around that time there was a large influx of immigrants coming from Mexico and Central America who were used as scabs for folks who were trying to organize for union jobs. And these companies, a lot of these factories, right, are paying people sweatshop labor, right? And I'm not about active. I mean, you see some of these factories that are out here, they're active. They're doing manufacturing and stuff, right? And who are they employing? Is undocumented workers for the most part, right? They're not employing folks from the community like that, right? And it creates this tension, right? Because you can't blame immigrants. For them, that's a situation that they have to make do whatever they do, right? You know, it's the business owner and their greed and their value of profit over people. That's the real problem, right? Right. This was the old Sears company that was an abandoned factory for years, for decades, right? It finally got converted into this commercial center, right? Word, you know what I mean? So all these stories, y'all, I'm saying Central Avenue is a great street to drive because there's so much stories to it, right? Like, you know, right. We're also here on Slauson. Yeah, we're on Slauson, right? So we're coming up on Slauson, y'all. My man's right here, grew up around the corner, so he's nostalgic as hell right now. So Slauson Avenue is another important piece I did want to bring up. We mentioned it in our previous presentations. So there's a big conversion occurring on Slauson right now. So the railroad tracks that have been housed there forever, right, are being transformed into a bike pedestrian path, right? The transit stops along Slauson are being upgraded to be more friendly to transit riders, right? And they're widening the streets to make more room for also, you know, vehicular traffic, right? But there's a major project that's an investment that's coming to the community of South Central, right? I mentioned the TCC program earlier. That's partly helping to fund this. That's a $35 million investment that's coming to South Central. That's helping to create some of these transformations, right? So you can imagine, I mean, for folks who grew up right, you know, you stayed away from Slauson, right? Slauson is crazy. And it's crazy because there's schools and stuff. Your kids are there on the rocks, standing there waiting for the bus and stuff, right? And, you know, no space for sidewalks and none of that stuff, right? So it's been a long time, you know, and it's been a long effort to get there, right? The campaign to transform Slauson has started like 15 years ago, right? You know, the owners of the rail lines were basically gouged the city to sell them the land back, right? So they could convert the space, right? You know what I mean? Profit over people, man. That's the problem, right? And so, you know, it's something I do want to note, right? I mean, that is a victory, though. You know what I'm saying? The transformation, once it's done, is going to connect the Crenshaw line to the Blue Line, and eventually they're going to expand it, and it's going to connect. That trail is going to take you all the way to the LA River. Rail to river. That's the ultimate goal.